I'm Zach Owens with GunsAmerica and Hunt365. Today we're going to talk about the second part in the bear series we're doing on bear baiting. In the first video we went over, finding a bait location. Obviously you're looking for areas where there is going to be bears at, and then specifically kind of what you're looking at before you set your bait. And then we kind of went up setting a bait, and as you can see kind of behind me, I threw some sticks right here as like a mock spot as how I would set my bait. I got the tree in the back and I got branches. Obviously if there's a real bait, I like to put way more branches in the back so there's no way a bear can come in from behind. So next we're going to go over two parts. The first part is actual bait itself. So honestly, bears will eat anything, from dog and cat food to bread. They love sweets, so donuts, pastries, that kind of thing, whatever you can find. But you can also use sweet corn. You can use grain with molasses on it. There's a million different baits. Pretty much anything you can think of. If a pig would eat it, a bear will eat it. And so depending on how you bait, whether it is a barrel or you build some sort of structure like I do, you would still want to set your bait up in the same way. But a big part of that is having bait that has a good smell to it. So one trick I personally use is I fill up a weed sprayer with vanilla extract, and after I place all my bait, I'll actually spray the entire area down with that. That scent stays in the trees even with the rain, and that smell will carry up the canyon. But you can buy pre-made scents there's a couple companies out there. There's Boar Masters, there's like Batum 907. I think there's a few different other companies that sell actual baiting scents. But in my opinion, you can get good stuff just from the store. Another thing you can use is grease from a restaurant. Not only does it smell super strong, but I actually really enjoy using at least 5 gallons of grease. I try to use 10. So for my structure that's built up like this on a tree, I'll make a roof over it, and that protects all my bait from the rain because it's not in a barrel. But I like to pour it all over, yes, the bait a little bit, but more the branches, anything over the bait that the bear's going to touch, and the ground. And the reason you do that is because the grease it gets on their pads and it gets on their fur. So say that bear comes to your bait site, he eats for a while, an hour or two, 5, whatever it is, and that bear goes tromping up the canyon. Well, if that bear went 8 miles away, like we talked about, bears' noses are so incredible that grease that's still on their fur and on their pads, he's just tracking that up the canyon. Say another bear crosses that track, it's going to smell that, it's going to follow those tracks right back to your bait. You get more bears on your bait. So yeah, you can really use any type of bait there is. The reason I do it the way I do it is so I can put more bait there at once, so I don't have to continuously drive to my bait all season and rebait it with a barrel. In a lot of cases, and I used to bait with a barrel, that is the issue. You do have to drive up a lot and refill your bait. If you have a bunch of bears on your bait, if you have 5 to 10 to 15 bears, they can clear some bait really, really quick. But there also is ways, you can see them online, that people have, put stuff in the barrel and they chain it to the tree. So the bears have to work to get even just a little bit of bait out, and it keeps them there longer. So that's a super effective way as well. But when you're thinking about bait, you're thinking about, honestly, like I said, if a pig will eat it, a bear will eat it. People have used fruit. I've tried it. It's not the great. Apples do work. They just get mushy after a while. But grain, your bread, tortillas, dog food, stuff like that, popcorn, donuts, that all that stuff ends up working really, really well, and the bears really enjoy it. Another bait that does work, I've had less luck with it, is any sort of meat. If you're fall bear baiting, meat tends to work really, really well. But as far as spring bait, You know, when those bears come out of hibernation, you know, first they're eating on grass and onions and flowers, you know, trying to just get their stomach right. And meat, especially earlier in the season, doesn't tend to be as big as much of a part of their diet. Again, as spring progresses, that does change. That's when they start to kill fawns and calves. So they will eat meat later, but early meat isn't the greatest. I know, like Canada, for instance, they love using beaver, rotten beaver, and that sweet meat. In Canada, beaver meat tends to be like a gold mine for bears. I haven't used that here in Idaho. I'm sure that would work. But as far as just putting a pile of meat, it rots. You're just not going to have as good luck as for what I have seen in the spring. There is also regulations specifically here in Idaho where we're at. It can't be a wild game animal, so you can't bait with deer, elk meat, and all the fur. Say you use beef or whatever else it was from a farm, you'd have to skin the animal. Again, you have to check the rules and regulations in the state that you're at. And then the second part, and one of the most important parts, so you did everything right. Your bait's in a good location. There's a bunch of bears in the area. You have good smelling bait, everything you need to get a bear to your bait. And this one is a big one. It's shot placement on a bear. And when you're normally talking about big game, you know, right behind the shoulder in that pocket, heart, lungs, vital area, that's where you want to shoot normally. Well, a bear is different. Their vitals actually sit more centered to their body. So that's the importance of a structure like this, is getting them to come around your bait to offer you a good broadside shot. So with bears, I always say broadside is great, quartering away is even better in my opinion. Just the way a bear's vitals sit in the middle of their body. You can actually, believe it or not, shoot a bear in certain cases, especially with a bow, in the pocket, which, you know, deer or elk, that would be a heart shot. And if, say, it's quartered away and you shot the pocket, even sometimes broadside, if you really hug that shoulder or shoot it in the shoulder with a bow, you have the possibility to totally miss the vitals. So a good rule of thumb for bears is if a bear's standing broadside, they say center of center. So if you drew a line from nose to tail and then top of the back to the middle of the body, you could shoot it directly in that center and still hit vitals and have a quick, clean kill. The thing with bears, if you hit them good, they tend to die extremely fast. But if you hit bears bad, they go forever. And unfortunately, bears don't bleed much. All that hide on a bear soaks the blood up, and they're really, really hard to track. They don't leave footprints a lot, especially in ground like this, pine needles. It's really hard to track a bear. But that's the importance of setting your bait up and funneling those bears to give you a good angle to make the shot. And obviously it's different. If it's a rifle, I still would aim a few inches back from the shoulder, but you do have more play with a rifle, right? You can shoot them in the shoulder and still kill them. So specifically with a bow, it's a lot more paramount where you shoot. But a good rule of thumb is center of center, and you can still hit both lungs. On a deer or elk, that shot would be a gut shot. And on a bear, you can still double lung them, and I've seen them with center shots with a bow run 30 yards. So those are the main tips to all remember when you're bear hunting. Again, specifically bear baiting. Again, you want to make sure you check out all the rules and regulations for the state you are in and make sure everything you are doing is legal. For instance, in Idaho, you have to have a bear baiting tag that needs to go on the bait. Legally, you have to have that. So whatever state you're in, make sure bear baiting is legal, and just make sure you do everything by the book according to your state regulations. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully, if you've been interested in bear baiting, or it's something you want to do that you can use these tips and tricks to be more successful in the field, like this video, comment on this video, and share it with anybody you can.